Hello, all you Vanderpump Rules fans. I have 5 pages of notes here on the last episode, episode 4. Let's talk about it. So this episode is titled The Dog Days of Summer, which is actually quite apropos when you see it all the way through to the end. And of course, we know the dog days of summers are the really long, hot, miserable days. So it opens up with James and Allie preparing their house for their first pool party. Nothing much to say there, except that James was very overwhelmed sharing with Allie everything he had to do that day. He had to go to 3 stores. I can't even remember, they were Home Depot, Target, and one other one. It's like a normal first 2 hours of my day every day. It's running errands and doing things. How's he ever going to handle his life once he has kids? Or if he were to ever get a real job. I mean, it was just so blatant how entitled and how easy these kids' lives still are. Yes, their schedule's all over the place because they might be traveling here and traveling there and doing this interview and DJing at night, but all kind of fun stuff. And all pays very well so that they have most of their days to do essentially nothing. 3 stores, and he made it sound like it was the end of the world. My word. We cut to Ariana and Katie, who are talking about leaving the restaurant the night before. Remember, they were at Sir, and there was the whole blow up with Schwartz and yada, 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 yada. Okay, so that's how we ended the last one. Well, apparently they got in a taxi cab, and when the guy went to drop off Ariana, he goes, "Oh, I recognize this house. I've driven you here before." She's like, "Oh, yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah, you and your husband were really fighting." The very last time the two of them were together, the night she found out about the affair, she had him as her taxi cab driver. And it's so funny because they've talked about it in the past about how, like, this poor taxi cab driver had no idea what was going on. Now, she was on the phone with Sandoval and then other people. He wasn't in the car with her, as I recall it anyway. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they were not in the same car together. She left and she's screaming at him on the phone, and it was just a big mess. And what's funny is that she's like, "Well, we're not together anymore." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I assumed." And she said she can tell he still had no idea who they were, this whole SANDOVAL thing. I mean, it is pretty big, but I can be honest with you and tell you that 2 of the 3 of my kids, who are all in their 20s, would have no idea what Sandoval is. My parents, no idea what Sandoval is. Maybe even my sister, definitely my brother has no idea. Like, in their world and in Hollywood, it seems like it's everything because it is on national media. But nobody reads all of what's going on the national media. They have their own podcast or their own news channel or whatever they listen to. A lot of people just listen to local news. I care more about what's happening locally. I care about what's happening with the Cleveland Browns. And I care about what's happening in the greater Cleveland area. I don't live in Cleveland, but I live in the northern part of Ohio. Don't really care about wildfires in California or earthquakes or the drought or now the floods and the lack of drought. And cared for a little bit because my daughter lived out there for 5 years. 3 years of college. She graduated in 3 years, and then she worked for 2 years. But she's in Nashville now. I don't care what happens in California. And I don't read People magazine. But I do watch every episode of Vanderpump Rules, so I know what's going down. All right, back to this. I just think that they probably have a little bit of a warped perception. The fact that there's a taxi driver who may even have English as a second language, I don't know, but many of them did when I was out there in terms of Uber drivers. The fact that he still didn't know who she was kind of shocking to her.
You don't know who I am?
A little bit of an inflated ego. Let's go on. Lala and Sheena stopped by Lisa's palatial estate. Lisa called them over because she wanted to talk to him for a little bit. Basically, she wanted to plead on behalf of Sandoval. But before they get to that, Lisa has a new dog named Donut. Oh my God, so cute. Donut is such a cute name. Oh, I have to text that to my daughter so that someday when she gets a dog, she can think of Donut. Her and her husband love donuts. When they lived in California, they would go to every donut shop there was. And now in Nashville, they still go to every donut shop there is. Now in Nashville, there's bourbon donut shops, whiskey donut shops. There's all kinds of donut shops. But she had donuts at her wedding. Like, donut's a cute name. And why I never thought of it, cute name. Maybe partly because his dog was adorable too. Anywho, she named her cat Amaretto after her favorite drink, so I think a dog after their favorite sweet treat would be good too. Lisa points out that Sandoval is really struggling. He basically needs a little bit of mercy from them right now. Lala says, how can I forgive somebody when they won't acknowledge that they even hurt me? So apparently when he was going on his apology tour, he didn't apologize to Lala. And this is something that I pointed out like later on in the notes when they talk about him never apologizing. He did apologize to Sheena and he did apologize to Ariana. Now, the sincerity of those apologies, they seem very rote and obligatory. But the words did come out of his mouth. I completely understand, though, that he's not demonstrating a behavior of remorse. So, in a way, it's the same as just not even apologizing. Words are meaningless. Actions are what count. So Lisa pleads on behalf of her brother and says she's seeing so many similarities and how her brother called her before he took his life and how Sandoval seems like he's kind of reaching out. And she said Sandoval does not seem like the type of person who would say he thinks about taking his life if it wasn't true. Really? Oh, this gets messy, doesn't it? This gets so messy. Questioning someone's mental health and their thoughts and that kind of stuff. And suicide. I mean, it's just such a tricky subject. But really, he seems like exactly the kind of person who would say that kind of stuff for sympathy. Luckily, he's not in my circle of friends, so I don't have to make those kind of decisions. Lala, in the end, kind of agrees, and she said, I don't want him to wear this for the rest of his life. And Lisa's like, yes, of course, right? And I'm thinking, the only reason why he's still wearing it and he's not making amends with them is because he's not showing true contrition to anybody. He's singing about Raquel in his songs. I don't know. You forgive those, not who just say the words, will you forgive me? Although I don't think he's ever asked for forgiveness. He just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it happened, that kind of thing. You forgive people who feel remorse. I just don't see it. Sheena expresses that this is so hard for her because her and Tom were very close for so many years. And Lisa said, well, doesn't that make it easier for you to forgive him? And I'm thinking, well, no, because it cuts deeper what he did to her and how much he lied to her. There's the other side of that coin that Lisa's not seeing. And Sheena points out, is forgiving him worth losing Ariana over? Ariana has made it clear, if you're a friend of his, you're not a friend of mine. So I guess there's that fine line of how we are not friends, but I wish you well. I forgive you even though you haven't shown remorse or asked me to forgive you, but I still forgive you. I wish you well. I'm Ariana's friend. I just don't know how that all is going to work out, but we'll see if that happens on the show or not. The last thing that Lisa said before Sheena left was, just go with your gut, don't be a people pleaser. I didn't like that statement at all, and I love me some Lisa Vanderpump, but I did not like that statement. Don't be a people pleaser, go with your gut. Her gut has been telling her. So Lisa's trying to manipulate her into, well, not just manipulate her. She's come right out and told her, can you please reach out to Tom Sandoval? And so that line that she says implies Sheena should trust her gut instincts to reach out to him and not be a people pleaser to Ariana. I say flip it. Trust your gut instinct that you want to stay away from him and support your girlfriend of more years than you are friends with Tom. About the same. And don't be the people pleaser to cater to Tom Sandoval because he wants to be back in the friend group. My opinion. We cut to the pool party at James and Allie's house. Schwartz walks in with another plant. Plant number 3. Again, as long as these are all coming out of his apartment, I'm fine with it. Start spreading them out amongst the rest of your friends. I've never seen him give a plant to anybody else, but their house is new and plans to warm it up. Schwartz brings out a bottle of tequila that he brought for the party, and this is what he says. I've been on my sorta semi-sober curious journey, but today I'm going to have a few. Sorta semi-sober curious journey. Yeah. And he can't be too curious because he's going to drink. There's no sobriety in drinking. I mean, come on. It's getting worse and worse and worse with each episode. The excuses that this generation makes to just justify and do whatever they want to do. I mean, he doesn't have to justify drinking to anybody. He can. But to say, oh, I think I want to go sober. Or maybe sober curious. Or maybe semi-sober curious. Sort of semi-sober curious. I mean, there's no such thing. Sober or not. End of story. At this time, he's reflecting on how the night before went at SUR with all the girls, especially Lala and Ariana, really coming at him. And then we cut to Tom Sandoval and Billy at a cold plunge place where you get into a bathtub of just really cold water. Why is Billy there? To get on TV. I never liked Billy. Billy seemed like she was a fame whore. She was overdramatic. She was hard to relate to. And she's back. Why is she back? Because it's the only person left in their friend group who will still talk to Sandoval. And she wasn't even in their friend group. That's the ironic part about it all. I don't even think, did she become a server at TomTom? How did she stay in contact? I don't know. I'm sure she did everything she could to keep her hoofs into this group to try to get back on TV. Well, it worked. The blow up of the century occurred. Tom's all by himself with no friends, so Billy's right there. Yay, more Billy. Tom shares with Billy that it feels very weird to him to be in this position that he is right now because he feels like he's an outsider with his group of friends. Yeah, think? Do you not know why, Tom Sandoval? Crazy. What a crazy thing to say. You feel like it? No, you are an outsider to your group of friends. If you feel like it, you're in touch with your feelings. That's a good thing. Let's face it, Tom has not only always needed to be part of the group of friends, he needs to be the center of attention within his group of friends. So for him to not be the center of attention, but to be outside the group altogether, I can see this is difficult for him and his ego. He adds that he wants to have a resemblance of his old life back. Yet, he says nothing on how he's going to make changes to see to it that this happens. He's just sitting back, playing victim, and acting like he's so confused as to why nobody wants to be his friend anymore, but taking zero action steps to remedy it. It's infuriating. And he ends the scene saying, it's always the people closest to you that will hurt you the most. Oh.
We've done here, Confucius.
Pot calling the kettle black. Completely agree with you, Tom Sandoval, and this is why Ariana and Sheena are so scarred from what you did to them. Back at the pool party, we have Lala and Allie inside the house talking, and Lala asks Allie if she knows why James has gone sober again. He was sober for many years. 4 years, I want to say? And then, no, it can't be that long. Can it? I don't know. Many years he was sober. I mean, many for James. And after the breakup with Raquel, he was just like, F it, I'm going to go ahead and drink again. And he said he did that partly because he gave up drinking for her. She gave him an ultimatum. Give up drinking or I'm gone. So he gave up drinking. Allie says to Lala that she does know why he gave up drinking and went sober, but she feels like it's not her story to tell. And Lala said, well, do you think he'll share it with me? And she said he might. Go ahead and ask him. Meanwhile, let's cut to James, who's outside chugging drinks full of weed, acting a fool. His barbecue of food he's preparing for everybody is on fire in complete flames. He's messing around, joking with the food, like high as a kite. kind of acting like he does when he's drunk, but not as bad. Poolside, we have Lala sitting down talking to Schwartz. She apologizes for her behavior the night before at SIR because she went in on him. As did Ariana. Ariana went in a lot harder. Then again, Ariana's the one who got burned. He was the best friend of her 7-year relationship that kept the secret away from her. Lala didn't need to be as hurt as she was, but Lala's hurt when everybody has a situation. She always inserts herself into it.
I used to think that it was my superpower, that I could like call anybody on their like, oh, I've seen this before, I've got your number, and it's just not healthy.
He thanks Lala for being genuine and honest and open with him, and he said he'd love to have that conversation with Ariana, but clearly she's not there yet.
At some point in my life, I have to practice forgiveness. I cannot wear my trauma like a badge of honor anymore.
And he shares how Ariana is not a wounded bird anymore, basically, that she is acting now like a diva and on top of the world. And like her shit don't stink because of what she went through. Now, does she act like that? Truly, I'm not sure. I do know that when she talked to Sandoval's maid, she was very kind of curt and rude, and she talked down to her, for sure. And that made me a little uncomfortable. Does she do that in the rest of her life? I don't know. There could be a small sense of other people's jealousy starting to seep in a little bit because she is getting a lot of opportunities out in the world, Dancing with the Stars, on The View, interviews here, there, going all around the world. Yeah, can't blame her, right? She went to hell and back, and there's this very short window of time where people are interested in it, and she can capitalize that monetarily. And she doesn't know what her future holds. She got to get out of that house, buy herself another home. So she did everything that was offered her. You can't blame her. But if her attitude changes about it, then you can blame that. I'm not sure yet. The jury's out. And let's face it, a lot of them capitalized on it too. I know Lala made sweatshirts. Was that Send It to Daryl sweatshirts? Were those related? Why? Who did she say send the email to Daryl? Who was sending that to her? Was that, I think it was Raquel or Rachel. And then I do believe Sheena made some sweatshirts as well. I can't remember what they said, but yeah, they were selling merchandise off of the situation. Again, they were all affected by it. It's America. They have every right to. As part of this conversation between Lala and Schwartz, I loved, again, we were seeing episode after episode, Lala starting to become way more introspective than she ever has. Sobriety is beautiful on her. Not to mention, she is more strikingly gorgeous than she's ever been. And she came on the show as a 10. She's a 12 now. I mean, it's crazy how good looking this girl is. Not drinking suits her well. And she admitted, it clears up your skin, it makes you less bloated. I mean, yeah. She's a walking billboard for AA. She really is. She said that she needs to stop getting involved in everyone else's fights. So true. This has been her MO since she came on the scene. And anytime somebody would get in a fight, she would relate it to something that she's been through, and she would instantly just go after one of the people and go, I know people like you. I know your people. I've been around your people. I know what you did. I know what you're going to do. She was just queen know-it-all of everything when it came to fights that she didn't have to be involved in. She also went on to apologize to Schwartz for not being that compassionate to him last year when he was going through everything with his brothers and the divorce and the house and everything. She was just not kind to him throughout that year, and she apologized. Tom Schwartz ended it by asking Lala if she thinks that she could talk like she is to him to Tom Sandoval as well. She's like, yeah, I probably should. There's some cracks in the armor. We cut back to Tom Sandoval talking to Billy after the cold plunge thing, and he shares with her it's now been 3 weeks and he's heard nothing from Raquel.
Not a phone call?
And this last little bit, this last 3-week period was the second extension she did to stay in this facility. So she's obviously been doing a lot of growth and realized that she's not fully mended and just keeps staying. Typical Sandoval classic fashion. He shares with Billy that while she's been gone for this full period of time, that he's in love with her and he's saving himself for her. Slow clap, Tom. Like, that's such a major sacrifice. This is the man, after his wife gives birth, is going to be having an affair. Because she can't have sexual intercourse for at least 6 weeks. It's not safe to. 6 weeks? How would he ever survive? Oh, the arrogance to think that this is an altruistic thing that he's doing. To not sleep around while she's in a treatment center for mental health because of a situation that you put her in blows my mind. And he ends the conversation by saying, I just want to be happy, but I feel like I'm not allowed. Yeah, well, you're not. It's only been a couple months. You spent 7 months in this major affair with huge lying and betrayal involved for 7 months. After 3, you think it's going to disappear? Wake up, Tom. Pay the piper. Grow a pair. There are consequences to actions. This is yours.
Twirl on that.
We get back to the barbecue, pool party. James is so high.
Right? I'm Butter Bay, baby. I'm Butter Bay up in here, baby.
Wait, Sheena.
I've got nothing else to say there. Sheena is in the pool with a bunch of the girls, and she shares about the conversation that Lisa had with them the night before. Now, Ariana is one of the people in the pool around this float where they're all talking. She shares that Lisa Vanderpump would like the group to ease up on Tom Sandoval a little bit the whole time Ariana's doing this. She's not having it. Sheena shares that Lisa pointed out that there are similarities between Tom Sandoval and her brother before he took his life. Ariana is quick to say these are very different people. And she adds Tom has still not taken responsibility for what he did. So I want to know what that looks like. I want to know what she really wants from him to show that he's taken responsibility. Is it to apologize with sincerity, move out of the house, allow her to live it until they can figure out what to do with it? Is that really what's bugging her, that he's there, that he's not showing sympathy to her that way? Is it a sincere, heartfelt apology as opposed to a I'm sorry, which he kind of just yells out as like a, okay, if you're gonna make me, Mom, I'll say I'm sorry. I don't know. I am curious what she really wants from him, though. I'm not saying she shouldn't be upset. I'm on team Ariana here. I really am. I am just curious, though, to know what is that look like that's going to make Ariana move on. Not that it has to happen right now, but someday, what will that look like? Ariana points out that Tom Sandoval's behavior is all manipulation. It always has been. And she adds, he's just upset and depressed right now because he's not part of the friend group and he's not being invited to parties. She's like, once he gets invited to parties, he'll just be his old self again. I can see that. She's got a point. We cut to a scene where James goes to visit Lala at her apartment, and they're talking, and Lala comes out and asks him, James, what is it that made you want to go sober this time? Because I think it's been 3 months at this point that he's been sober. And he told her that it was basically his behavior was getting more and more out of hand after the Tom Sandoval and Raquel
Drama!
He felt very betrayed because his friend was lying to him the whole time. He said that it was hurtful, all the stuff that was being said online, and how he wasn't getting over Raquel and he must still love her and all that, which I said too. I mean, because that's really what it looks like. I mean, that's what it looked like on the last episode, or two episodes ago. So I get it if people are saying that. And he said it led to more drinking. And when he was drinking, he was getting in lots of fights with Allie to the point that she got so upset with him that one day he came home and she was gone and their cats were gone too. She had taken the cats with her. And she went to a girlfriend's house and she stayed there for 2 nights before she came back. And he said that was kind of his rock bottom, realizing he was going to lose her. And according to him, he's now doing it for himself. So I guess the only difference is, he's still kind of doing it for her, right? If she wasn't in the picture, would he get sober? If she said, I'm 100% done, I'm cutting all ties, I'm moving on, I don't want to ever see you again, would he get sober for himself? That's really doing it for yourself. Now, she didn't give him an ultimatum like Raquel did, but he's trying to do things to keep her. So it just makes me nervous. It really does. Asks him, do you think this is for a period of time or do you think this is for life? And James had a good line here where he basically said, no, this is to change my life. I'm planning on being sober forever, or not drinking, let's call it. California sober forever. And he said that's the only way he could do it, is if he thinks he's doing this long term and it's a complete, I'm giving it up. If his mindset is just, I'm just going to do this for 6 months or a year, then he'll trip back up again. So I like that. We go over to Schwartz's apartment where Crazy Joe is there cutting his hair. Remember, Joe is the person who worked for the production company and was the hairstylist and the hair cutter for everybody on Vanderpump Rules, and kind of befriended some of them and would hang out. And, Crazy Kristen, who used to be on the show, Crazy Kristen calls her crazy. Now, if Kristen calls Joe crazy, that means she's clinically insane crazy. Nobody in their friend group likes her, but she's been hanging around Schwartz's place. And after he left Katie, she was spending nights there, and he says they weren't having, and nothing was going on. But yeah, like nothing was going on with Sandoval either, so right. Don't believe it. And then after he said nothing's ever happened, nothing's going on, he did admit, well, we had our little tryst, but now it's over. Like, the lies in this group are ridiculous. And the way they can look you straight in the eye and lie to you like, no, never did it. Besides the tryst that we had. So they all sit down and Joe sits down with them too. I'm like, what is this girl doing here? And I got the impression that she really, really desperately wants to get on the show. And I can't tell you exactly why, but it was through interviews or podcasts or something that I was listening to last year when the season ended. And everybody was talking about how nobody likes her, and part of the reason why, that she just keeps trying to insert herself. Well, there she was cutting his hair when the cameras were there. And then she's cleaning up and sweeping up and taking it into the other room, and then comes in and sits down in a chair with Sandoval and Schwartz. This has nothing to do with you, Joe. You can go. You can excuse yourself. Anywho, at this point is when Schwartz goes ahead and extends the invitation to Sandoval to go to Lake Tahoe, says everybody's going to... Tahoe. I don't know. Every now and then I want to say who. To go to Lake Tahoe, and, Lisa's whatever's there. But he also said that he also rented an Airbnb or something like that, though. So I thought they were all staying at Lisa's place. But at any rate, he said everyone in the friend group will be there except for Ariana and Katie, so it should be easier to start making amends. And Schwartz said, so this is your opportunity. Let me walk you through this, Sandoval. You should be having one-on-one conversations with everybody. He adds, and dude, you need to leave your ego back here at home. Don't bring it with you. You just need to go up to everybody individually and say, listen, I am sorry I hurt you. And so Sandoval, first thing out of his mouth is his attempt to practice what he's going to say. And this is what he says. First opportunity to get back in with the group. And he is just eager to stab somebody and hurt them for hurting him. He's so delusional. He's stripped of all his friends. He's become the national villain. And he still wants to try to play victim. This is classic narcissistic behavior. Classic. Cannot take responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. And I can't even believe he had the nerve to say what they did was effed up. What they did was effed up? They sold some sweatshirts and said on a podcast, I'm starting to question what our relationship was because you, Tom Sandoval, lied to them for more than a half a year, blatantly. Everything he did, and he is getting angry right here and says it's effed up that they sold a couple sweatshirts. Oh, this is not going to go well. I cannot see that this trip is going to go well. I'm telling you right now, it is going to be a mess. He can't control himself. He can't. The comic relief in the scene is the fact that Jo can't keep her mouth shut. She's in the scene, which she doesn't even need to be in, but then she keeps trying to interject.
I'm sorry, too, about all that merch you sold.
Yeah.
For them.
She was fully self-aware. I've never seen her like this.
Oh, that's great.
I've never seen
I
her
love
be
that
so
one.
self-aware.
Finally.
But just let him feel those feelings for like a couple minutes.
I
Really,
like
a
that
couple.
you're
It's
saying
been
that, 'cause
it's been like
she's-
5 months.
What's 5 more minutes then? Just think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Shut up, Jo. Sheena this evening is going out to dinner with Brock and James and Allie. This is a scene where her mom is not going to be available to babysit. So she brought Tori over. Now we saw Tori was over to babysit the other day, but Mom was also still in the room. Mom's not in the room this time, so Tori's going to babysit. It's just for dinner, for a few hours, right? And then she's going to be back. It's not overnight, not an extended period of time. Well, right before Sheena leaves, who walks in but her sister? She's not quite ready to let go at all yet. She still has to have an immediate family member there, which is what she said before. I always need to have an immediate family member there. She makes it sound like she's never left Summer with her sister, but I find that hard to believe because she said that she's left her with immediate family members. So I don't know that this is a step at all, to be honest with you, but I hope it is. I hope it is. I hope this is something new, and I hope it helps her grow and learn to let go. Because Summer Moon, she's fine. Mommy. At dinner, Sheena shares with Allie and James about the conversation that she had with Lisa Vanderpump. And James said, oh, I just got a phone call from Lisa today. She wants me to stop by just for like 15 minutes. She wants to talk to me. And Sheena's like, well, this is what she's going to say too. She's like reaching out to everybody. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, I don't know. Like, God forbid he do something to himself and then there was nobody around. We'd feel terrible, right? And Brock had a really good response.
I just don't want him to do something and it to be...
Right, Brock. Lisa's really making everybody else feel guilty about the potential of what might happen and allowing him to get off the hook without him showing true remorse ever. Like, why does he get a pass? Why do you believe him? Can't Lisa pay for him to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to talk to where she can learn more about his behavior? I feel like, and I understand this, I feel like Lisa's trying to cover all her bases. I feel like she has a lot of guilt for not picking up and leaving and going to London when her brother called her and said that he was in a dark place. And I think she's trying to make amends. I mean, she doesn't want history to repeat itself, right? We can understand that. So she's going around to all of Sandoval's friends and saying, give him a break, give him a break, give him a break. So that if she tells all of them that, and she, of course, herself is too, she's allowing Sandoval to come talk to her and she's showing him empathy. But she's trying to get the friends to do that as well so that this time she can do something because she wasn't there and able to do anything for her brother. She probably wouldn't have been able to anyway. But she has survivor guilt. So I hope that after she tells everybody once, cut him a break, that she'll lay off everybody and not force them into a relationship with him. I feel like the best thing Lisa can do is find a great counselor and get him into therapy. I think his ego and his narcissism will prevent him from going to a counselor, quite frankly. So James shows up the next day for his 15-minute meeting with Lisa, which is at Vanderpump Dogs. And he walks in, he's like, how's everything going? She's like, okay, I guess. I mean, there's always something here. And and you could just tell that like she didn't know. And he goes, hey, should we sit here on the couches? And she said, yeah. Or no, maybe we should. And she's so distracted. And I'm like, holy cow, what happened? And then somebody comes down the steps and she says something like, hi, Graham. And James is like, is that Graham?
He's my best friend. And it's like literally a big dream come true that he's back with me. And I just don't know. I still don't know how it's possible. I really don't.
And he came down and he went over to James, and James was hugging him, and he's like, oh, he's wiggling like he always did. He's got that little back wiggle that he did. This is him. And James is crying. He's like, Graham Cracker, where were you?
I was not expecting that shit. What the hell? I was expecting to talk about f***ing Tom today. What the... Thank you so much. Like, I don't know what to say. I just think of him sometimes, hoping like he's in a good place.
He belongs with you.
She said he was in a shelter. First of all, he was in a foster home. How he got into the foster home, I don't know. So he was probably at a shelter first, dropped off at a shelter. The shelter found a foster home for him. In the foster home, he was biting. So they took him back to the shelter and said that they couldn't do it. The shelter contacted Vanderpump Dogs and said, will you take this dog? And then they realized this dog was Graham Cracker, who he calls Graham for short. And so Lisa asked him, do you want to take him back? And James said, yeah, I do. I mean, clearly the dog has been through a lot. He's never really been trained really well. I think the best thing they can do for this dog is take him to one of those camps where they train him not to bite and to heel and to sit and to obey. That's really what the dog needs. It needs structures. He's been all over the place between different places and different homes. And, he's just been able to do what he wants. And the only way he can express himself is biting. Not the dog's fault. He never was taught otherwise. So that's what he needs. I don't know that James and Allie are going to be able to do that for him. James wasn't able to do it for him before when he and Raquel had the dog. So I'm a little nervous about that. I'm a little nervous about Allie's reaction to all this because she's really already been hesitating about getting a dog. But she's like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, all of a sudden, boom, add water and stir, you have a dog. And it's a dog with behavior problems. If she's not a huge dog person, it's not a great dog to have. She also loves, what is his name? Mr. Banks, I think. She loves her cat, Mr. Banks. And the preview to the next episode is Graham Cracker outside looking at Mr. Banks in the window of the house and running up and barking at the cat. Well, I don't know. I hope they can figure it out. Lisa's got a ton of money. I hope Lisa pays for Graham Cracker to go away to one of those camps for like a month where they are trained well. Like, Caesar. What was his name? Caesar something. The dog whisperer. Maybe it was just Caesar. He needs a dog whisperer. But it ended on a beautiful note. Full circle on the dog days of summer. And I hope everything works out with Graham Cracker. I love the name Graham Cracker too. Graham is cute for short. And they always called him Graham. I didn't realize his name was actually Graham Cracker. But I mean, if it were my dog, I'd call him Graham Cracker. The full thing. All right. Who cares, right? You don't care what I'd call my dog. We need to go. That's the whole episode. 5 pages and done. We'll be back next episode. We'll see what's happening with Graham. And I think maybe they'll go on the trip. We'll see. What did you think about this episode? Write it down below. Let me know. And be sure to share this video with anybody you know who watches Vanderpump Rules. Or post it on any social media site where you see people talking about Vanderpump Rules. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bye-bye.